So today I'm going to show you exactly how you can build out an automation just like this so you can post to LinkedIn every single day. You can get really high quality posts that are really well researched. They speak to you and your personal niche, and they address a problem that your audience is having. This is a great way to get engagement and to be kind of authentic to yourself. There's a couple things that you're going to need. We're going to need Perplexity AI for research, and I'm using ChatGPT here to do the actual writing with some assistance. And I'm going to show you how to do this. And I know this looks scary kind of right now, but actually you really don't need to worry about all of these down here on the right. These are just kind of variations of this one branch here. And at the end of it, basically, you come out with a whole bunch of posts that look like this. They're really nicely formatted. They really address your audience's pain points. They're really clear, and they're researched based on specific things that you are interested in and that would be beneficial to your audience and also align with what you do for work, right? I haven't gotten a ton of response to these yet. This one is pretty good, 600 impressions, but I only started posting this week. And so with social media, you know that really it's a game about consistency. And so the more you post, the more likely the algorithm is to show your post to other people. And so the best way to do that right now is using AI to kind of automate things to make sure you're posting every single day. And so basically I have this set up in a couple different ways. I'm going to walk you through all this. I'm going to show you exactly what the automation does here. I'm going to show you how to set up the Airtable. I'm going to show you this second scenario, which is really just simply posting, the post that we write. And then we're going to build out the Airtable together, which kind of exists in two states. One is all the topics that we want to talk about and we want to research. And the next is the actual posts themselves. And I have this set up in a way that everything goes through an approval process, right? Like we still want to have some impact. We don't want the AI just posting like whatever, especially to LinkedIn, because LinkedIn is a professional network. It does actually represent you as a person. I think some social media sites, you can kind of get away a little bit more with blurring the lines. I think LinkedIn is really important to be professional. I've seen a lot of people blow up on LinkedIn just by posting consistently, and that leads to really like big new job opportunities for them, the opportunity to make a lot more money, to get new contacts, build new relationships, and bring in new business at the end of the day. So that's what I'm personally trying to do here, and hopefully some of this will help you guys out as well. So let's just dive right in. I'm going to walk you through what this automation does exactly, and then we're going to build it from scratch ourselves. And so really it just starts in Airtable. We're first watching the Airtable record here, and that's this one up at the top, which is just topics. And I literally just asked ChatGPT. I'm a motion graphics designer by trade. I do motion graphics and animation, and I'm an art director. I'm also obviously really interested in AI and automations. So those are really, for me, the three topics that I'm researching. You should pick whatever makes the most sense for you, right? Like maybe you're into investing, or maybe you're into business administration, or whatever it is that you're interested in. And so I basically just used ChatGPT to research. I told it, hey, I'm into motion graphics, AI, and automations. What are some topics that are relative to my industry right now? I think I actually use Perplexity to do this, because Perplexity AI will search the internet for what's relevant currently. And so I used that to get some of these things. And so some of the things that told me were key challenges and opportunities for professionals at various stages in motion design. One of the things that I'm really passionate about is teaching people. And I have over 15 years of experience. I've worked for some of the biggest companies, Apple, PlayStation, Nissan. And so I have a lot of experience in this, and I think I can help the younger generation kind of who's coming up in the workforce kind of enter the job market and be really prepared for what they find. And so I want to teach them about some of that. The innovations at the intersection of UI UX design and motion graphics, the evolving job market for creatives in light of AI and automation, best practices and emerging trends, tips for young designers, AI and everyday decision making. So what's really great about this is that we can continue to add to this list over time and kind of go through and approve each topic as it comes in. And each one of these you see has like a different description, because you can see some of the main topic is the same, key challenges and opportunities for professionals, but this is for mid-careers. This one is for veterans, and this is talking about the challenges they face. And here this is talking about the opportunities that they have. So these are kind of like slight spins on the same topic. And so I'm going to show you how we set this up to research these topics and create this list, and then how to create the posts from them. This all happens right here in this automation. So the first thing that this is doing in Airtable here is basically just looking for posts in our LinkedIn, and it's just looking for things that we have approved. We say, yeah, we really like this topic. We think this would be great for our audience. Let's go ahead and approve it. Next, we're just using this set multiple variables module here. I like working this way because rather than always having to read the Airtable record just for testing purposes, like we can go ahead and we can type in the topic here for this. And this just allows us to kind of like run through the whole flow without having to come back and run the scenario over and over again. So this is a great way to kind of do things when you're just kind of testing. Next, we have Perplexity AI, and it's just completing a chat completion, and basically it's as an AI research assistant, your task is to identify current impactful topics and trends in motion graphics, design, AI, and automation, focused on issues that are relevant to both experienced professionals and those beginning their careers in these fields. So this is just kind of like setting the context for the system. And then we say your research should cover the topic of the topic and the description, which we're just grabbing here. And then we're just asking it for that topic. We just want to provide a brief overview, why it's significant, if there are any relevant statistics or expert opinions, and then potential implications for professionals in the field. And right now we're asking it to present 2 to 3 thoroughly researched topics, but you could say present 4 to 5, 5 to 10, whatever you want. This number is really up to you. We want to make sure it sparks interest among LinkedIn professionals in motion design, et cetera, et cetera. And then we're just telling it to output the data in JSON format. So that way it kind of looks like this, and it's structured so that we can actually pull these individual pieces and kind of use them later on. I have been having a couple problems with the JSON format, especially coming out of Perplexity. ChatGPT has actually been pretty good at formatting JSONs, but Perplexity seems to be having a little bit of trouble. So this is really just kind of like a backstop, a checker. It just says, please format this JSON properly, and it's really just grabbing from this module here, and it's giving these specifics again, and this is just kind of to make sure that the scenario runs smoothly without issues. Here we're using the parse JSON module just to make sure we're grabbing all the pieces of the JSON, and then we're running it through an aggregator and an iterator, which so every time, remember we told it to, get 2 to 3, research 2 to 3 topics, and this is just going to iterate through one of those at a time and just go through the list 1, 2, 3, 4, et cetera, down the line, and then feed them down this path. And so here we have this linked to a ChatGPT assistant, which is just a PAS writer. And so PAS is like a writing framework. It stands for problem, agitate, solve. And so what you want to do is you want to introduce the problem to your audience, kind of agitate them a little bit, tell them why this should be concerning to them, and then S for solve is you want to solve the problem for them and tell them how they can solve that issue. And then it's just going to create that record back here in Airtable in this post column here, and it's going to give you the idea, the description, implications, significance coming out of the research, and then the post itself for us to look at and to approve. And this framework column is the thing that we have going on with the different branches in the make.com scenario, which is kind of all the different writing frameworks. So I'm just going to show you what those are really quick. You can set these up however you like. Again, this is just so we kind of have a variety of content. Basically, these are all operating totally the same. They function totally the same, but they just kind of have different frameworks for here. And so we have the problem, agitate, solve writer. We have this IIR writer, which is insight, impact, recommendation. We have the SIA writer, which is story, insight, action. And then we have this WWW writer, which is what, so what, now what framework. And so these are all just different frameworks. If you want to know more about these, like you can literally just type these into ChatGPT and say, hey, what is the what, so what, now what framework, right? And then it will kind of tell you what that is. We're just telling it to create a compelling LinkedIn post on the topic that generates engagement, and we want to make sure it adheres to the what, so what, now what formula. And so these are kind of we're sending these down different branches per every topic. And so once right here we're iterating through the topics from the research, I just feed this into a random number generator. It's going to pick a random number through 1 through 4. Basically, if it chooses 1, it goes down this first branch and does a PAS post. If it does 2, it does the IIR, 3, 4, et cetera, et cetera. And so this is just a way to keep variety in our posts, so we're not just posting the same style over and over again, because that gets redundant, gets really repetitive, and you might kind of exhaust your audience. And so let's go ahead. Let's just get started building this from scratch. I'm going to show you exactly how we build this in Airtable. I'm going to show you exactly how we can build this in make.com. We're going to go through and build this together step by step. I'm also going to show you how you can build out this Airtable database to store all your information, both the topics and the posts. So let's go ahead and get started. And since our scenario right here begins with an Airtable module, the first thing we want to do is we just kind of want to start building out our Airtable to make sure that we can get our topics kind of logged and in there so that we can pull from later. And so we're going to go ahead and we're just going to build this out. This one's obviously really simple. It's just 3 columns: topic, description, and status. So I'm going to come over here to Airtable. We're going to build this together. I'm going to click create. If you don't have Airtable already, I highly recommend getting it. It's free for the most part, up until like 1,000 entries per workspace. It takes a lot to get to 1,000 entries. So if you have 1,000 entries, you're probably at a point where you've posted a lot of content and you can probably afford to pay for the premium version. I don't pay for the premium version yet, so you probably won't have to either. And so let's go ahead and we're going to take this, and we just want this to rename this. We're going to rename this topic. We can rename this one description. And this is a long text, and here we actually don't need a signee. We can delete that. We're going to rename the status is just status, and we either want to have this as declined or approved. And the last one we want is research, right? So after we already do the research, we don't want our make.com scenario to just kind of keep researching the same topics over and over again. And so once it's already researched, we want to switch the status to done, essentially that it's been researched, and it knows not to look at that one again. So we have approved, we're going to make that green. Decline can stay red for obvious reasons. And really this is all we need for this first one. And we can just call this topics here, and we can call our base something like LinkedIn together, because we are together. Great, I'm going to say okay. And I know that this isn't going to link to my make.com scenario right away unless I go over to this builder hub. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that real quick. And I'm going to come to my working Airtable token and just want to make sure we add a base here. And we have this linked in together. So this way, when we connect to the API, it's going to work really nicely for us. And so if you need to know how to do that, feel free to drop me a comment. I can make a little video on how to walk through that and kind of connect the API to it. But right now we're just going to build out these couple of scenarios. So let's just ask ChatGPT what might be interesting. Like give me 5 topics for potential LinkedIn posts to help people understand investing. The power of compound interest, how small investments grow over time. This is really great. Diversification, why you shouldn't put all your eggs in one basket. The psychology of investing, understanding risk versus reward. Like these are really great. See, it's already really easy to get these topics, and then we're going to use Perplexity AI to enrich the content of these and give us a lot more data to use for our posts. And so we can just go ahead and we can copy and paste these into the Airtable we just made. And so we come in here and I can paste this in, and we can gather this little description, and we can just paste this in the description, and we can just go ahead down the line and do that. And I'm probably going to fast forward through this part so you don't have to watch me copy and paste. Okay, so I've gone ahead and copied and pasted all of these in here, and this is really great. And so we can just go ahead and if we want to, we can just go ahead and approve all these topics for research now, but I'm actually going to wait until we start building out the make scenario. So let's hop into make, and we can start building out the actual scenario. So let's go ahead and get started building this thing. And we can just go ahead and click on the plus, and Airtable I use frequently, so it's up top, but if you don't see it, you can just type in Airtable, click on Airtable, and what we want to do is we want to search records, which searches for specific records, or it returns all records based on a parameter that we give it. And so our base, we got to make sure we're using the right connection, which is this working Airtable connection. Our base is going to be LinkedIn together. The table that we want to use is table 1, and the only thing we actually need to grab here is the status for this, and we can just type in, use the brackets, and we type in status, close brackets, equals, quotes, approved. So that's the status that this module is going to look for. It wants to see if it's approved, and I'm just going to use the first one for now. We have 5 in there. If you want to use all 5, you can use all 5 too. I've been using 2 personally in my own, because remember, the research module is spitting out 2 to 3 or 3 to 5 different examples for every topic that it's researching. So even in just putting 1, like I could actually get 5 LinkedIn posts from a single topic if we want to do it this way. So just for purposes of testing, I'm just going to put in 1 for now. Going to click OK. And so the next thing we want to do is we're going to do set multiple variables. And I'm just going to use tools here, click set multiple variables. We're going to add an item. We're going to call this topic. And we're going to add one more. And we're going to call this description. And I'm going to show you why in a second we're going to do this. I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And I'm just going to run this once right now to see if we get an output. And right now it says we actually don't have an output for this because we didn't improve any of our topics. So now if we go back into Airtable, and we can just take this power of compound interest, and we can go to approved. And if we pop back in to make.com and we run this module once, now you can see we grab this approved status, and that's all we get, because we actually need to set this up to make sure that we're grabbing not just the status, but the topic and the description as well. So let's see if we can do this one more time. Now we ran this again. Now you can see we have the topic, the power of compound interest, and the description that we put in, explain the concept of compound interest with simple examples, etc., etc. And so when we run this, we want this to be dynamic, right? If we're searching more than one record in Airtable, we want this to kind of update for every record that it finds. So we're just going to come in here to the variable value, and we can put the topic in the topic, and we can put the description in the description. And now this is really great. Later on, again, when we want to run through multiple topics, that's just kind of grabbing automatically. But in our case, we actually just are going to hard code this in for now, so we can just test this and we don't have to run the search records every single time. So I'm just going to go ahead and paste the topic in here, and I'm going to grab this description. I'm just going to grab this description and paste this description here as well. And I'm just going to go ahead and unlink these for a minute and move this little timer to start. So now this is actually the start of our automation. And if we just click run once, you can see we have the output of our topic and description, which is just hard coded in. Again, this is just for testing. So the next part really is where most of the magic happens. It's in this Perplexity research module. And I like Perplexity for research because it actually searches the internet like live in real time as it exists now. So we're just going to go ahead and we're going to steal this module. And I'm just going to go ahead and copy this from here. And we can paste it in, just Command V, and we're going to connect these up. And so again, this is just to set this up with the content and the system. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to actually just delete these for you, and we're going to start this from scratch so we can see it. And this is what it's going to look like when you first come into Perplexity, and it's actually not even going to have anything in the max tokens. And so you want to make sure you connect this to your Perplexity account. Again, you're going to need to link your API to this. If you need help doing that, you'll just click the add button and put in the API key and the license key. If you need help doing this, again, just drop me a comment and I can make a video about how to set up your Perplexity connection. So this model is fine here, and in messages, we just want to add an item. So the first thing you're going to want to do is select the system message, right? And this is basically just kind of like the overall direction that you want this module to take. You're kind of just telling it like what is its role in all this. And this is, as an AI research assistant, your task is to identify current impactful topics and trends, motion graphics design, AI, and automation. Focus on issues that are relevant to both experienced professionals and those beginning their careers in these fields. So this way it's both for, kind of those just starting out and people who are more veteran. And then we just add one more, and this is the user message right here. This is actually the task that we want it to complete. We say your research should cover the topic of, and here we're just going to grab the topic from this set multiples variable module. And again, we hard coded this in, but this will change every time the scenario is run based off of the record that it finds in Airtable. So this is just the topic, and then I'll just give it a dash and this. Right? And we can even put these in quotes if we want to kind of keep these together. For the topic, provide a brief overview, why it's significant, any relevant statistics, potential implications. We want to give us 2 to 3 thoroughly researched topics, which is really great. Ensure that they're current, relevant, and likely to spark interest. We want to make sure they're not redundant with each other, right? So if it's going to research 2 to 3, we don't want to give us the same one just for this one go. And then we tell it to output in the JSON format, and we gave an example of what that looks like. And I'm just going to go ahead and click OK. And actually the last thing it's going to ask us to do, I know it's going to ask us to do this, is put the tokens in. I'm going to put 4096. I don't think it's going to take that many, but just in case, we're going to go ahead and click OK. And so let's just go ahead and run this once. And this is now taking the topic that we put in, the power of compound interest, and explaining compound interest. And right now Perplexity is getting to work and it's researching that topic for us. And it's going to give us, should be 2 to 3 different outputs in that JSON format that we specified. And in just a couple seconds, this is already done. So if we just come down here into choices, one, message, content, you can see compound interest is a financial concept where interest earned on investment is reinvested, allowing the investment to earn interest, et cetera, et cetera. This is one idea, the concept and power of compound interest. The second idea, the impact of time and consistency on compound interest. And now it says is heavily influenced by 2 key factors, time and consistency. This is idea 2. And number 3, managing risk and fees in compound interest. So this is really great. This did like a lot of work for us and like in very little time. This is so much more thorough than like I would probably be on my own. So the next thing we want to do is like we just really need access to that information so that we can store it and log it and then create posts from that in the future. And so if you see here, I have this JSON formatter, which just makes sure that everything is formatted correctly. I'm gonna forego this for now. You can use it if you want. It basically just kind of reiterates the same information that I had in Perplexity. It just says, please format this JSON properly and gives the output from this module. And then it gives the specifics and the example again. Let's just hope that the Perplexity module in our scenario works great, and if it doesn't, we can always change it later. But what we really want to do is we want to parse the JSON. And what does that mean? So if we go ahead here and we type in, if we type in JSON, we can just click parse JSON. And what this is going to do is we just want to grab the output that it just researched, and you saw how it broke it up into idea, significance, example, et cetera, right? And those are called key value pairs, right? If the idea is the key, and then whatever the topic is after that is considered the value. And so if we go ahead and look at this, come back in here real quick, type in message, content, right? So idea, this is the key, and the concept and power of compound interest is the value. So these are key value pairs. Description, compound interest is a financial concept, key value, right? And this is just how JSONs are structured. So we want to make sure that we can grab each of those individual pieces, and that's just what this module does here. So we can come down here into choices. Didn't want to add that. Just want to add the actual message, and just grab the content here and click OK. So we're just going to go ahead and we're just going to run this once through. going to tell us we don't want this transformer at the end. It's okay, we're just testing. So we're just going to let this run through again. We're going to see the completion, again, the research coming out of Perplexity. We're researching the same topics because we set the variables here, and then it's going through the JSON, and we have our output now, and you can see we have these pairs: idea, description, significance, implications. This is bundle 1. For bundle 2, again, idea, description, significance, implication. You can see how quickly this becomes really, really powerful just to break these all up. And so the next thing we want to do is we want to be able to go through each one of these bundles one at a time and create a LinkedIn post based off of that information. And so what we need to do is we need to aggregate that all in one place, and then we need to iterate through it one at a time. And so these next 2 modules are actually like really easy to set up. And so just go ahead and click a plus, and you can type in aggregator, and you're going to get this flow control array aggregator. And the source module is going to come from this JSON here. And what we want is we just want to grab all 4 of these: idea, description, significance, and implications. Great. And next, the opposite. We want to iterate through these. So we're going to grab the iterator, also flow control, and we just take the array coming from this array aggregator. You can just click this one here. And again, we're going to go ahead and click OK. So what this is doing is taking all of these bundles, putting them into one thing so that it can identify them, and then it's just going to go through them one at a time exactly how we want. Super great, really powerful, really easy. So now what we've got to do is we just feed these through one at a time through ChatGPT to write our posts for us. And so next what we want to do is we want to send this to ChatGPT to go ahead and create our LinkedIn post for us. So I'm just going to go ahead and add another module. I have it here. If you don't see it, you can just type in ChatGPT and it'll come up. And we want to message an assistant. So for me, I've already set these assistants up in my platform. Basically, you just go to platform.openai.com, and if you have a premium account, you have access to this. So you go down to an assistants, and you can create an assistant, right? And so basically what I have here for the LinkedIn PAS writer is just this. It says, you're an expert at LinkedIn and skilled in crafting impactful copy using the problem, agitate, solve framework. That's the PAS framework we talked about. So purpose, create a compelling LinkedIn post on a given topic that generates high engagement, likes, comments, and shares by adhering to the PAS formula and guidelines below. We give it a task, we give it this tone of voice, and I have a tone of voice document that I created based on some things that I had written. So I basically took this over to ChatGPT and I gave it like 3 or 4 things that I had written myself and say, analyze this, give me my tone of voice. How do I talk? What's my sentence structure? What's my grammar? Like, do I use any like catchphrases or, kind of tech jargon or what is it, right? And it creates a tone of voice for you. And so this way you can get it to kind of sound like you. And we give it a few more things. We basically tell it, what the structure is: problem, agitate, solve. You can see these here: problem. Problems start with a strong attention-grabbing conviction statement that identifies a relevant issue or a lesson. Use short sentences to express personal realizations or challenges. Agitate, and then here we have solve. Share the realization or solution you discovered. We give it a length. The post is a maximum of 150 words. We tell it the structure. Use short paragraphs and single sentences. Use bullet points to make sure that it's diverse. Begin with a strong conviction statement, end with an encouraging thought or a meaningful call to action, et cetera, et cetera. And then we give it some things we don't want it to use, like emojis or hashtags. We don't want it to use numbered lists, but we'd rather use bullet points. We don't want to use overused slang or a call to action. And then we give it a little bit about the call to action and things like that. So basically this is really great. I kind of gave it this structure and told it how to work. And also here in my knowledge base, I basically have a couple examples of different posts that I like. So if I found some people on LinkedIn who I really liked the way they structured their posts, and I used those as examples for this to pull from. So it says, okay, take this structure and apply it here. And so what we want to do is now we're back in make.com and we just want to message our assistant, which is the LinkedIn PAS writer, which is great. And here's our message, and I'm just going to go ahead and copy the message from here because it's long, but we'll relink it up and I'll show you exactly what it does. So I'm just going to copy this and come over here. I'm going to paste this in. And what we want to do is now we're going to take the idea and we're going to grab the idea from the iterator. We're going to take the description and do the same: description, significance, and implication. So again, the iterator is just going to go through these dynamically one at a time for everything we've researched. And we want to make sure the writing style is really natural and doesn't use any cheesy phrases. I found that ChatGPT says things like, here's the silver lining, or here's the kicker, which like nobody talks like that. So I told it not to do that. And then gave it some key characteristics for tone of voice. And I said, don't include a title, just the post copy, and don't include PAS section headers. Like, we don't want to call out that we're using this framework, so we don't want to be like problem and then agitate, because like, again, nobody writes like that in real life. And so let's just run through this once, and I'm going to go ahead and kind of show you the output here. So again, we set our multiple variables. We have the power of compound interest, explain the concept, Perplexity AI is doing its research. It's going to come into this JSON parser. It's going to make sure it grabs all that data appropriately. It's going to aggregate it together and see here where we say source is not a valid JSON. So this is why I have that checker in there. If we want to add it, maybe I'll just add it back in because it's actually like, it sucks because you'll end up using some more credits from OpenAI, but then you don't run into this issue. And if this were something where you were, say, set this to run every single day, you might be frustrated if every morning you're waking up to an email that says, oh, there's an error, and you go in, it's simply just because Perplexity doesn't format the JSON properly. It's kind of frustrating. You use some credits. It's not the biggest deal, but it is what it is. These things still have some kinks to work out. So we're just going to grab the content, and again, it's just kind of telling this about the format. Don't use any notations. Don't use line breaks. This should be your first character, and here's an example. So I'm just going to go ahead and click save. Make sure you always save your scenarios, and we should probably label this, and we'll just call this LinkedIn Research Together. And let's just try this one more time to run it once now that we have the proper formatter in, and let's see if ChatGPT does its job. Okay, so it looks like ChatGPT did its job here, and we can go ahead and we can see the output of this. We get this really long string with our 3 ideas, which is great, and then this kind of aggregates and iterates. And right now you can see we've already actually done this twice, and it's doing a 3rd round of writing. So you can see operation 1, here's the result, and this is talking about compound interest is magic but with math. This is operation 1. Operation 2 for our second topic, if we go into here, we can see starting early is a game changer. So now we actually have created 3 posts just from the single line of research, which is really impactful. And this is what the iterator does. Again, it goes through them one at a time, sends them over here to ChatGPT, and it kind of creates the post for us one at a time. And these are really great. Start with a really engaging, attention-grabbing sentence and hook. It varies the structure with these bullet points down here, and then kind of, what steps are you taking to optimize wealth growth? Share your insights below. So there's a strong CTA at the end. Again, really, really impactful, super powerful stuff. The next thing we really want to do is we basically just need to create the records in Airtable. We want to update the record for the topic that we just researched, so we're not repeating our research, and we want to create a new record with the LinkedIn posts coming out of ChatGPT. So let's just go ahead and click rename, and I'll just call this PAS Writer. Go ahead and click OK. And so before we go ahead and update Airtable, we need to go ahead and make our second Airtable kind of grid over here. So we have this post tab, which has the idea, descriptions, implications, and significance. This is coming out of Perplexity, the post itself, the status, the framework, and then an image if we want to create an image, and a couple other things, the times and the record ID in case we need that later. So let's just go ahead and build this out really quick. I'm just going to go ahead and come up here, and we actually call this topics. Click save. We'll probably have to adjust our scenario now that we have a new name here, but that'll take 2 seconds. And I want to go start from scratch, and we're going to call this post. Great, and let's just reference what we had. Idea, description, implication, significance, post. So we come in here, we're just going to change this field to be long text, and we call this idea. Call this description. And we don't need an assignee. We'll keep the status, and we'll just duplicate this. Call this significance. Duplicate this again. Implications. I think the last thing was posts. Idea, description, implications, significance, and LinkedIn post. So if we want to be consistent, we'll just move this one over here. Significance, duplicate this one more time. And we'll go with LinkedIn post. Great. And now for the status. This part's where it gets kind of cool. Approved, the framework that it uses, the image. So let's just go ahead and edit this, and we go declined, ready for review, because again, we always want to make sure we're reviewing things. Approved, and posted. And so after this is done posting, now we'll go ahead and change the status so that we know it's posted. And the last thing we have here, I've actually duplicated this field, and we can just go ahead and we can call this framework. So remember I had basically those 4 different types of writing frameworks, IIR, PAS, WWW. And so what's really great is we can just call this PAS. And let's see if I labeled them more significantly. Oh, I labeled them with the full framework. So problem, agitate, solution. You can see impact, insight, impact, reaction, story, insight, action, what, so what, now what. So let's just go ahead and create these. Quick save, and there we go. And then the last 2 things we always need here when we're going to do anything, especially when we're actually using these Airtables to post directly from, is we always want to make sure we have the created time and the last modified time. And you'll see why in a second. So we have the created time, and we'll just go ahead and create field, and we'll add one more. And we'll call this last modified time. We'll just type in last modified time, and click create field. Great. So let's come back into our scenario over here. Let's make sure this is linked up properly, because that's the only time we're actually grabbing from the database. So now we can go in here, and we can go into Airtable, and we can go into create a record. And we can use our connection, and our base is still going to be linked in together. Come to the table, and now we have this post here that we just created. So what we want to do is our idea is we can come into the idea from the flow control, idea, description, implications, and significance. And again, it's just going to iterate through these and create a new record for every single one that we have. And the post is going to be the post out of the ChatGPT module that we have at the end. And so once we have this, we can come down here and we can set our framework. In this case, it's going to be problem, agitate, solve, and the status, we can turn off map, and right now it's ready for review. So once the posts are written, we want to make sure that we review it, and we can click OK. And the last thing we want to do is we want to go to Airtable, and we want to update a record. And this is going to be in the same base, linked in together. The table is going to be topics. And what we want to do is we want to grab the record ID. I'm going to need to link up this Airtable module in the beginning again. So let's go ahead here, move this back, and connect these up. And I'm just going to go ahead and run this module once so that we actually have information. You can see this here. You can see the record ID here. So now when we come in here to update a record, we should be able to come in here and click the ID. Nope. And so what we have to do, we actually have to delete this and start again. I don't know why Make does that, but it just doesn't recognize that we created that we connected that new Airtable record. We just go to update a record, and we're going to just go through this one more time together. If you ever don't see something, usually deleting it and relinking it works fine. So we can go to topics, and now we can take the record ID. And if we come down to the bottom here, you can see this. We'll just grab the ID here, and basically all we want to do is we just want to change the status to research. And so now we know we've researched that topic. We don't need to research it again, because remember what we're doing is we're searching records for anything that's been approved, and then it's going through this flow. And so if it doesn't say approved, if in the end it says research, it's not going to research it again. So we can just go ahead now, and what's really cool is now if we go here and we can go to topic, we can link this up to description, and we can click OK. And actually what we'll do here is we'll change this limit to 2, just so we can see what this is like. We'll auto align, we'll click save, and now if we go back into here, linked in together, when we go to our topics, we can go ahead and we can actually approve both of these. And I'm just going to go ahead and delete these 3 rows because we don't need these records right here. So we can start totally fresh. And so now if we come back into our Airtable, into our make.com scenario, we can go ahead and run this, and now it's actually going to pull both of those topics that we stated, and it's actually going to research 2 to 3 additional posts for us based off of each of those topics. So from 2 topics, we should get 4 to 6 different possible LinkedIn posts. That's over a week of posts. I tend to post Monday through Friday during the week, which is when people are most active on LinkedIn. It's up to you how often you want to post. You can go ahead and set your scenarios to run. And so what's really cool is that there's a lot of control over the scenario for you. Like, you can decide how often you want to research new topics and create things. Like, I actually have this research module just set to manual, but if you want, like, you could run this like every Monday or something, and you can kind of research new topics and create new posts for you to review and then post to LinkedIn. And so it's really, really flexible, this whole system. And you can see that right now it's going through and it's researching. And if we pop back over to our Airtable over here, you can see it researched this one already, and it created some new posts for us, right? Using this problem, agitate, solve framework. It's all ready to review. You can see the importance of diversification. These are the ideas, description, implications, significance, and here's our post for us. So again, super, super powerful. This is like all ready to go. You can literally just post this straight to LinkedIn right now. And so if we let this kind of finish running through, we still had an issue with this JSON, which is kind of a bummer. So there's still a little bit of tweaking that we need to do to figure out why this is saying it's not a JSON and how to format that correctly. I'd say actually like 80% of the time it probably works for me, and then like 20% of the time we have some issues and you kind of just have to run it again, which is unfortunate. But that's sort of just, you know, how some of this automation stuff works. It's all troubleshooting and trial and error, and I'm sure, you know, someone out there much smarter than me has a better solve for this. And so if you know how to solve this, like, please let me know in the comments. and hopefully we can get this fixed. And so I'm just going to show you really quick how to create a couple different paths. For this, we'll just do one. Other one, you can kind of create a random number generator to select between path 1 or path 2. I'm actually just going to stop this now because we don't need to do this. And so basically, if you hold shift and drag, you can select multiple kind of modules. And so what we'll do really quick is we'll just come in here, we'll right click, and I'll do add a router, right? And what I can do is you can take these and you can kind of copy them, and we can just press Command V and we can paste them and we can link these up. So this is really cool and really powerful, right? So if we just auto align these really quick, now instead of the PAS writer, maybe we'll use our IIR writer. And again, IIR stands for insight, impact, and recommendation. So you give an insight, you tell what the impact of that is, and then you give a recommendation for what you should do from there. So basically, we're going to keep this prompt totally the same, right? We don't need to change anything here. The only thing we need to do is we want to reconnect this here to the IIR writer that we set up in our assistant. So you can set up as many of these as you like. And the only thing down at the bottom here, do not include IIR section headers, insight, impact, and recommendation. And we'll click OK. And so then when we create a record, what we do here is instead of doing the problem, agitate, solve framework, now we can do insight, impact, recommendation, right? And so what's really cool is that when we come through, now we can actually see what the framework is for this, and we can make sure that we're mixing up like when we're posting different posts based on the framework, so we're not posting the same style of post back to back to back to back to back, and we can kind of create a little bit of variation. So again, you really quickly, you see how powerful this is. And so the last thing we need to do, just to make sure that these different routes we set up are working, let's just set up a random number. So I'm just going to copy this module, and I'm just going to go ahead and paste this in, and we're just going to put this right here before the router and auto align this. And basically what this is doing, this is just taking a random number, and it basically chooses a random number between 0 and 1, and I'm multiplying it by 4 and then adding 1 to it, right? If you don't know what this means, you can basically just come over to ChatGPT and you say, tell me what this formula is doing, and just kind of paste this formula in here. So it generates a random integer between 1 and 4, and here's a breakdown of how it works. Random generates a random decimal between 0 and 1. It's going to multiply this by 4, and so we only have 2 options. So right now, we just want to multiply this by 2. It rounds it down to the nearest whole number, and then it just adds 1 to it, right? Because basically it starts between 0 and 3, but we actually just want to go from 1 to 4. And so if we come back into here, into our scenario, we can just change this number to 2 because we only have 2 possible paths that it can take. And now we can just set up some filters, and we can call this 1. And basically we want to say if the random number is equal to 1, it goes down this path. And if here, we'll do 2, and we say if the random number is equal to 2, it'll go down this path. So this is really great. It's just randomly going to pick a number, and it's going to go down a path, and it's going to have a different kind of writing framework for every single post that we do. So again, really great to create variation. You can have 10 of these different writers if you want, and just set this up the same, and just, you would just change this number to 10, and it would go down a different path every time. So the last thing we got to do is we just got to set up this LinkedIn scenario, which is really just looking at the LinkedIn post that we've saved into Airtable, and it's posting it to LinkedIn. Like it's really, really basic. So let's just go ahead, and we're going to build this from scratch too. It's going to go to scenarios. We'll create a new scenario. So what we're going to do here is just going to start the same as the other one. We're just going to search records. It's going to search for a specific record. So we just got to make sure we're using our right connection. Our base again. It's getting repetitive, but you get the idea. It's really good to go through this so you get really comfortable and familiar with everything that's going on. And here we're just going to take the post database, and what we want to look at is basically all that we need. The output is we just need the LinkedIn post, and we basically want to look. We also need the status, and so we want to make sure again status equals approved. So again, this is really powerful because we can go to the Airtable database, and if we don't like the post, like we can just decline it and we don't have to post it. It's really good to have control over these things so you're not just putting whatever out there. We actually don't have anything approved, so if we run this once, you're probably not going to see anything. We have nothing here because nothing's been approved. But if we come back over here to our post, say we really like this first one, ever felt like all your eggs are in one basket, and we can just go ahead and click approved. And now if we come back to our scenario that we just created and we run this, module, you can see here we grabbed our post and it just says, here's our post right here. Really great. So there's basically two ways to do this. The way I have mine set up, like I think it's really nice to include an image with your LinkedIn post, and I use Midjourney all the time for image generation. So I had a separate column in my Airtable database with the images that I've generated from Midjourney, and I drop those in there. And so if that's the case, you can see what I've done here is I just have this HTTP module, which is looking at Airtable, and it's basically like looking at the image that's in there and just grabbing the file to download it. So that way I can go ahead and take the image from Airtable and actually post it to LinkedIn alongside my text. And so it's just grabbing the data here from the module, and then it's just posting the content right here. Since we don't have images set up, there's basically two types of LinkedIn posts that you can make. And so if I just come in here, add a module, and typed in LinkedIn, and you can say either create a user image post or create a user text post. Right now, we're just working with text, right? So I've connected this to my LinkedIn. If you're signed into LinkedIn and you just click add, you'll be able to create a connection really easy here. You can just go ahead and connect the LinkedIn connection type, and it'll connect to your LinkedIn, and it'll just ask you to approve some things. So basically, this is really simple. You just take the content here, and all we need is this LinkedIn post. That's it. That's all the content is. We don't need anything media type. If we want this public, that's great. You can choose who gets to view this. Awesome. We'll just go ahead and click OK. Now, basically, whenever we run this, it's going to take the post from Airtable and it's just going to post that to LinkedIn. And the last thing we want to do is we come into Airtable and we want to just make sure we update a record by coming into here, grabbing our LinkedIn Together base, going to our topics posts, grabbing the record ID from this Airtable here. And the only thing we need to do here is we just want to change our status to posted, right? So basically when we run this through and we go ahead and post this, it's just going to update the record in Airtable here. So that's going to go from approved to posted. So the next time we want to run this, it's not going to post the same thing again. It's just going to go down to the next one on the list that you've approved. Basically what it's looking for is the last modified time. So it's going to grab the oldest, that you modified. So if you go here and you click approved and approved, it's going to grab this one first because you approved it first. And so you can set this to run however frequently you want. Like basically I have mine set to run Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday at around 11 a.m. So you can pick whatever works for you. If you want to do this once a week, 3 times a week, whatever, or you can just run it manually whenever you feel like the inspiration hits. And that's really it. So today, remember, we created this Airtable database with our topics that we got from ChatGPT based off of ideas and things in our niche that are personal to us. We created this post database here, which has the idea, significance, description, and implications, and the actual LinkedIn post just for reference. We created these 2 make.com scenarios, which basically has all this research using Perplexity and iterates through that research to create different kind of LinkedIn posts based off of different types of writing frameworks, updates the records in Airtable, and then this random number generator to send it down a different route every single time we have a new post. And then the second scenario here is really just looking for LinkedIn posts that we've approved. In my case, it's grabbing an image. In our case, it's just grabbing the text that we've saved in Airtable. It's posting that to LinkedIn and it's updating the record to say that it's been posted. If you want access to anything that we did here today, I'm starting a school community where you'll be able to get all my resources. And so you'll be able to get these scenarios and you can just come into here, click more, click import, and choose the file. And I basically already built everything for you. And so if you just go ahead and click save and import, this is going to import the entire structure so you don't have to build it from scratch. It's already here, all set up for you. Likewise, I'm going to give you access to all the prompts that I use for my ChatGPT assistant, so you can just go ahead and copy and paste these into your own, again, without having to create these all by yourself. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure you subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching.